Very good. Good morning, good evening, good night, agers and thrivers, family caregivers. Welcome back to Lana's Little Things with me, specialist gerontologist Dr. Lana, talking all things on living agelessly. You know what we do here, bridging generational gaps, entrepreneurship, family caregiving, and all that entails, and just life itself. But every once in a while, I come across some surprises and delights and whole new worlds that can light up the life not only of an older person, especially those who are having mental health changes, either from dementia and its various types, or any sort of a disconnect when it comes to them understanding, processing, and for family caregivers who might be at their wits end trying to figure out, how do I get mom and dad to enjoy life again, to just feel involved again? And with that, and you know how things just work. I found, or was led to me, who became a dear across the pond connection, Angela Fairhurst. Now you're going to learn a lot more about her and her products. I won't give any spoiler alerts, but let's say it's a gadget. And that's all I'll say. So think about a gadget, an older person, dementia. What can I be talking about? So Angela is the founder and CEO of Geri-Gadgets, Therapeutic Products for Dementia. And how we met on LinkedIn, business networking, but we have found a common ground and conversation. And Angela is such a delight. She is a fiery spirit. She's passionate about what she wants to do. She is so creative and inventive. And I have found her conversations with her to just be, okay, we got a mission and we're going to do it. Mission impossible or not, this is our mission. And she will talk to us some more about what inspired her, where she got the ideas from, and then what exactly, why would we need to use them? Who would be interested in them? Who would most benefit from them? And kind of like, what are they, right? Curious? I thought so. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to my partner in Gadget Central, Angela Fairhurst. Isn't that a nice name as well? So welcome, Angela. Hello.
Hi. Well,
Hi.
thank you for the very sweet introduction. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today and your audience. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Jerry
Where are you
Gadgets marks
from?
purpose for me, so I'm glad I get the format to tell your viewers about them.
Okay. Where are you from, Angela? Everybody knows I'm in Barbados in the Caribbean. We said across the pond. How far across the pond from me are you?
Oh, about 3,200 miles to Los Angeles. I'm a native Californian. I was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley. I went to UCLA. I really am a Californian through and through. Second generation. My mom was a Californian too.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So you got fun in the sun just like me.
Yeah, except for that I have pale skin. I don't have the luxury of the sun liking my skin, so I have to protect it with a lot of sunscreen.
Oh,
But
there we go. But we are more alike than we are different.
I know.
And we have more in common, and especially with older persons. You just said they are your inspiration. So I am going to take a step back, apart from you introducing yourself a bit, and then we'll ask some questions. So
All
just
right. Well, I'll start with, my career was a television producer, an executive in charge of production, both creative and organizational. That's an executive in charge basically is the problem solver. The line from A to B is never straight. So my job was to staff, budget, schedule, figure all of the logistics out, and then hire everybody. And my business card in that world was problem solved. So when my mom got dementia, I was determined to solve the problem. And it started with her misdiagnosis with Alzheimer's when she actually had Lewy body dementia. So that created a whole set of problems to begin with because she was given antipsychotic medication for hallucinations, and they don't work with Lewy body patients. As a matter of fact, that resulted in 7 different hospitalizations and quite a wild ride because she had bad reactions to each and every single one of those. But then once she survived that 7th hospitalization, moved her from a big care home community. She was home for 4 years with caregivers. It became too dangerous. She went to a big care home community in my area, 3 miles from where I live. So I visited her all the time. But after that, I figured for her to get the one-on-one or the one-on-2 or one-on-3 care that she needed, we moved her to a smaller facility. She really needed 36 hours of care in 24 hours. She was struggling hard to communicate. And they call it behavior problems, biting, kicking, but it was because she was so frustrated and not being able to use her words properly. Lewy body starts at the back of the brain. So I think, at least my theory is, the thought comes in and comes out wrong. So she knew she was losing her mind, I believe, and that was really, really hard on her. And it was really hard on me and my family. I have 2 brothers, but both of them were they live out of state. One brother lived up in San Francisco, the other one lives in New York, New Jersey area. So it was really me. But anyway, what happened was she was still biting and kicking when she moved to that small care home community. And so I saw her, the origin story is I saw her touching shiny magazine paper with her fingers. She had a clenched hand on her left. This was her right hand. She is right-handed though. So this was good. And rolling it. So I thought, oh my God, there's a sensory need trying to get out. Now this is just from observation. And that's one thing I recommend to caregivers is really take the time to spend to observe what the issues are. Because most of the time behavior is not behavior, it's some other sign of frustration or fear. And so when I started bringing toys to her, I found that most of them were either too complicated, too babyish, because they make stuff for babies. They don't make anything past babies in the same safe manner. Definitely not washable, and definitely they were toxic when mouthed. So it was so frustrating that it was one thing after another. And then I discovered, oh my God, medical grade silicone. I have all sorts of it in my kitchen. The answer was in my own kitchen. I bake on it. I use stir things. I use even the silicone pot holders. And so that's where the origin started, was with a pot holder. And
a pot holder, imagine.
Silicone pot holder. It was square.
Yeah.
It was not colorful.
Right.
But I cut it down into about this size, and I took it to her, and she's patting on it like this, and she crunched like a taco. She loved the sound. It was amazing. And then when we threw it back and forth, because this is an earlier stage, I think she was probably even at 3 or 4 at that time, because there's 7 stages, and she could still catch and throw back.
Oh, wow.
And she burst out laughing. She was, oh my God, it was the biggest relief, like letting the pressure cooker off for me, because all of a sudden we had engagement after 4 years of struggle. We had connection, and it was the quality of life moment. It made my heart sing, and it made hers too. It really was so beautiful that I was on a mission to create this line of Geri-Gadgets. So that's where it started.
Imagine that, from your kitchen, and Mom came back. She never left, but it was just a way to.
Well, she came up.
I need to tell you this, but we had to figure it out.
Yeah, she came to the surface. So what was there? Because we know, even till the very end, they're there. It's just finding it. They're always there. That's why we don't want to talk in front of them like they weren't.
No.
That's why we don't want to talk to them like children, because they aren't.
No.
That's why we want to argue or be frustrated in front of them, because that only makes them feel that energy. So if we're frustrated, we're not going to be yelling at somebody with cancer. I use that as an example all the time, because they have a disease, cognitive decline, dementia, any of those sort of issues that are related are because of a disease. Parkinson's, like all of it. We don't yell at them. Now, we might be angry that they have the disease. We might be so upset that they have the disease, but we don't attack them for it because that only makes situations worse. And I think that misunderstanding comes from that. So in my ventures, I realized that, and I ideated every Saturday with the sales guy who is no longer with us, but actually it was so much fun to see that because when I first brought in that pot holder, he was there for that moment and he's like, oh my God, this stuff works. Let's do this. And so we did. So now I have 3 patented Geri-Gadget buckets. One has
Show me in a minute. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
but that's the origin story. I'm happy to
Oh, isn't that amazing how it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be this spectacular, fireworks thing. It can just be thinking outside of the box, which you obviously did. And you were in your kitchen, but where we do our best thinking, admittedly, when we're cooking, right? Because you got to be inventive with dishes and find a way to make it easier and all that. But
Yeah,
that's so fantastic that just it came to, I wonder if this would work. I mean, then, like, what have you got to lose? Let's try it. And
yeah,
then look at the results. But also I wanted to point out 2 things that you said that really touches me for and is important, and we always mention to family caregivers is, and to anyone having caring for older persons with dementia, with any of it in any of its forms. You mentioned Lewy body. I'll just briefly touch on what that one is. But in any of its forms, any mental or change, communicative change, document, write down, say, oh, this happened today, instead of brushing, that seems strange. And anytime something seems strange, write it down. If someone who was previously docile and everything becomes aggressive, something's wrong. It's either wrong chemically or it's wrong structurally in the brain or something's wrong with the connection. And
mhm,
so I find that, medical people, just persons who they seem to tune out sometimes. And then it just becomes we just fix the symptom. We do not even, it's too hard sometimes, or requires a lot of effort to look for what else it could be. If
yeah,
something's not working, chances are it might not be the thing that's working. And so kind of it's challenging too to find a diagnosis. But Lewy body, as you quite rightly said, for those who may not know, there are several different types of dementia. Dementia is not the disease. It is an umbrella term for loss of memory, loss of cognitive function, thinking ability, communicative ability of varying types that affects your life. And the most common, everybody knows, is Alzheimer's, where memory is the main thing. But then Lewy body, there's a protein named after the doctor who discovered it, and it kind of goes all over the brain. It starts in the back, as you said. It can affect thinking, it can affect mood, it affects sleep, especially. Some persons might not realize it affects males a lot as well. And it can affect persons earlier in life, as early as in their 50s. So, and then there are the other ones. So when we're thinking, we really need to see there's no one pill, there's no one size, there's no one rule. Just and 1 and 2 for physicians, fellow physicians out there, and those who have a medical professional. If a family member is telling you something doesn't sound right or something isn't quite them, it's probably true because we don't see them every day. You do. So just a plug for that. And I applaud you for being as observant and having the persons there and saying, no, this is something else. Be your mom's advocate. Be the advocate for that person who can't speak for themselves. So I am so excited. I've seen them already, but I want our viewers to see them. So my personal story is my grandmother, she does have Alzheimer's, but and dementia of the Alzheimer's type, as it's called. Your mom would have dementia of the Lewy body type, or it could be mixed. And it is gratifying to see when she lights up, when they're children, when there's fabric. She was always sewing. She was always, seeing children at play. She took care of many children in, corporations. So those things light her up for sure. And so it's like, okay, when you come to the level where they are, and you've obviously done that. So please start to show us and tell me what Geri-Gadgets is all about. So I'm an Inspector Gadget girl, I am always for the newest thing. Give me something that I can use, twist, turn, and whatever. So
Geri-Gadgets are, I mean, first of all, thank you for explaining all that. There's frontal lobes, very complicated dementia. My grandmother had vascular dementia related to heart disease.
right.
So, I mean, it does come in all shapes and types, but the whole point is that fidget equals focus to me. So I started with the fidget bucket, and I love the idea of a container because the container is also part of the play. And silicone happens to be the closest thing to human skin. So that creates already from the get-go a calming sensation. And our bodies release chemicals when we're like that. We release oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. And so even a 15-minute visit with something like this can last days. So what I'll show you is the first bucket. We have 3 buckets and they're all themed. The first one is fidget gadgets. So there multiple people can play with it. You've already seen the silicone mat.
And frisbee.
Everything is completely dishwasher safe, mouth safe. You can also wipe it with a wipe or soap and water, doesn't matter, but easy. This is the tugger, which is really fun to play with. 2 people can play with it. You don't have to be right or left-handed. One person doesn't need, this stretches the gamut. All of these items in the fidget gadget bucket, everybody loves. It doesn't matter what, I love them, and I don't have any cognitive decline. But they're really good exercising the hands and arms. So that's the tugger. This is the click chain. So this makes noise that could be reminiscent of crackling ice or fall leaves. Maybe you have an idea. I'd love to hear what those are. It's big enough, small enough and big enough to go like a crown. You can wrap it like a bracelet. And certainly it goes in every which way. And it's kind of fun to play. It's really fun to play with. So this is an easy thing. This is reinforced, so it's very, very near impossible to pull apart unless you're Superman, and I'm not Superman. So this is the click chain.
I like that one because it looks, one, safe, so they won't break it and small pieces get anywhere. Secondly, it can only fit at the top, so they can't bring it down here and become a choking or a health hazard or anything. And that's genius. And then, I mean, you could just go wild with noise and just put it to your own little cha-cha-cha, that sort of thing.
Do a music session with this too.
Yeah.
Which is really, we know music works. Music is great for that too.
Music is a soundtrack to my heart. So.
Yeah, we've seen poppers, but this one in the triangle is specifically the great shape for the hands. And again, obviously the popping back and forth, and this can also be a game with somebody else. So the multi-generational aspect, I dropped this, so hang on. And then we have an egg, which is the squishy egg is solid inside. It does not have goo. That was one of the problems with all the fidget items out in the marketplace.
Yeah.
But this is too big to swallow. If somebody has a giant mouth, okay, maybe you won't want to give it to them, but most of the time, you can't get it in your mouth. It's not a choking hazard.
Nor can you bite it.
Right, so these are rated 3+. And so these 5 items come in the fidget gadget bucket. Then I have my, I loved Tetris. And most people are familiar with Tetris and Lego. And so this bucket is called the Shapes bucket. And it has, by the way, everything is colorful for the aging eye. It's not made for babies. So we're not in the baby market. We're in the respectful market. And so these can fit together horizontally, vertically. There's a smooth side and then there's the rough side. So the texture is really great to play with.
Yeah.
This, if somebody is an earlier stage, they're going to build something structurally more difficult. It could be any which, now I'm not going to do a good job, but you can build on it and the 10 pieces can go any which way you want. And you keep on, and so they're let's see, what don't we have? So there's, these pieces are great. So you can build, they can build anything. It's about being failure free. And really,
Those colors once again. I love was the color scheme, as you said, it's not for kids, which we would think of, the primary colors, blue, red, yellow. There are variations of those. Is there a particular reason why these colors would work for an older person than another color, let's say?
when I first got into making these, I did a lot of color research. And you know how a lot of people feed on a red plate? Well, I wouldn't
Yeah.
make a toy. And I do not call these toys because they're more
Right.
sophisticated than that. The quality is very, very high. I call it safe touch silicone, but it's medical grade, dishwasher safe. It's never going to wear out. There won't be any bite marks. It doesn't fade in the sun. There's no odor. That's the beauty of this. They can stand the heat. It's not going to melt in the sun. You have heat there as an issue.
Wow.
So all of these colors they mean different things. And I'm not going to go into each and every one, but
But you brought this from another planet, Angela. Oh my word. This is so unique. I love it.
so much fun. And this
Yeah.
happens to be my favorite. I don't know, because I love the fact that a kid can play with a grandparent with this. This is such a multi-generational object. And, this tool is so beautifully,
Yeah.
it can go from early stage to late stage. And even if somebody is in the later stage, even mouthing it and holding
Yeah.
it, little is big, just like you said, small things are big things.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of innovation to create something this simple. It's not exactly right. And then third and finally of the bucket, and by the way, because I'm patented, I have ideation in the future, so there'll always be more. This is the flower bucket. My mom's brother was a florist, so I grew up in a flower shop. So
Oh,
it has
wow.
did. And I know how to flower arrange. And this is, everybody loves flowers. Males and females equally love this. So 4 colorful flowers. And again, you'll see that we repeat colors. The color palette is repeated throughout. 3 leaves. They have no wire inside. They're also, they'll never break down. And like tulips are very symbolic, where they rise with the sun. And that's, to me, what Geri-Gadgets does. It brings somebody to life that really wasn't. Now, we're not going to cure any of the dementia with this, but we are going to give them joy and quality of life. And I think that's the whole point. And recognize that they're still there. Dignity, respect, and a failure-free option. Now, I reinforced the vase so that you can use the stars to hold any of these items. And they're so durable. They can smash into one another, go in any which way. And so creativity is, the only limit is your own creativity. So everything, again, is failure free. Of course, they're beautiful to display because they can go any which way and everybody loves flowers.
And they deform and come back, and you're not going to have them split edges, and they're that durable. You can, as you said, dishwasher, just normal, wait, washing machine safe. That is incredible. Wow.
And they feel so good. So the
Touch.
these two to put dirt in. Obviously, you can't put water or dirt in this. They'll come out the holes.
Right.
But if there's a flower activity that you like to do, they can be mixed. I have a lot of pictures on Instagram with the silicone flowers with real life flowers, which is a beautiful kind of arrangement. And everybody gets excited by those. Males and females love these.
You don't have to worry about dirt, and anybody's concerned about bacteria, especially if they're in a care facility. They wouldn't have to think about that, because then it would be a non-issue, because they're still doing plants. They're in the one they love and they're safe. So there's no objection there. Which is your favorite?
Which is my favorite? I see my shapes, but I think flowers are everybody's favorite, and fidget gadgets are pretty close. Fidget gadgets and flowers are pretty close. I don't know. Kids, this is a favorite among children more. So they play with their grandparents, and then everybody loves flowers. Everybody loves flowers. So this is just really is a good seller. And of course, the fidget bucket, because there's so many options. But remember, if something doesn't work that first time, try again, because every day is different. And also
Every hour too.
every hour. Sundowning is a certain time, you can do that. These are a product that everybody can bathe or shower with safely. These, if somebody's occupied, they're not going to get up and fall. So it reduces fall risk. It gives the caregiver relief. Paid or unpaid, it's going to help. Gives that sort of connection and engagement singly or with somebody else. So it's got all of these factors that I haven't been able to find anything else with that.
I've never seen it except the pot holder, which ironically, when you first spoke to me, I have a pot holder that's square and lime green like yours. And I'm like, what? I've never thought that as a tool, so just look in your kitchen, folks, chat with Angela and see what else can be done. Yeah.
Obviously, if you take the pot holders are bigger, so they're harder to handle. But I mean,
Right.
look, you can't throw it back and forth
No,
like a.
it's personal.
That's why I sized it properly. And if you're cutting it, it's going to have serrated edges. So you really need a finished surface. That's why it's important not to really cut them. And that's why I made them this way. But honestly, if that's all you have and you don't have the budgets, you could start with that because the sound and the padding. And it's all about reaching as many people as possible. So I say never give up. I also wanted to say, when you observe stuff, I knew every single time my mom had a UTI and the caregivers didn't. I'd go, something is off. I could tell
Oh,
it's.
sure.
She had frequent UTIs as an adult.
Right.
You also said that Lewy body presents itself differently than Alzheimer's, and memory is not the first thing to go.
No, people look for that.
And that
No.
was happening so early on is that my mom was mixing words. So she was putting in words when she forgot what to say, and it would come out insulting half the time
Yeah.
because they lose the filter.
Yeah.
The filter goes. And my mom would say the worst things. I was so embarrassed because my
I
friends,
know.
were, oh my God, is Vera going to be there? I'm like, no. Yes. Okay, I'll prepare myself. I mean, they took it personally because this stuff would come out. Then
Yeah.
she was paying bills more than one time, and then not others, and had that paranoia, really difficult paranoia. She was standing up and her blood pressure would drop, so she was scared. She'd get dizzy. She would fall or faint sometimes. She had a pacemaker put in. That's really when I could tell it happened because when she had anesthesia, she didn't have any idea where it is. So I have a fear of anesthesia. You can tell me as a doctor that really is
Right.
not helpful for anybody with dementia. It certainly brings it out.
Unless it's absolutely necessary, there will be a point of delirium, or it can trigger what might have been simmering before. So, you really have to be doctors. So thankfully, medicine has come a long way. So if the anesthetist knows that information, they will have a better idea of what they can use. Go later, go softer, go less time, depending. So the person can still get help, but without that post-surgical, discombobulation, so to speak. Yeah.
Knowledge and observation is key. And I do
It
think
is.
that idea to write everything down and keep notes of it so that when somebody does go to a doctor visit with the caregiver or paid caregiver or with the family member, their doctor sees you in 15 minutes. So you're going to forget half the things. So this
Yeah.
way you have notes of everything. It's so helpful because then they can properly treat somebody, those symptoms. You're right. They're only treating symptoms. So we have to be careful that they're not mistreating the wrong symptom for the wrong reason, like making my mom really sick. I mean, her
Awesome. Wow.
one of them,
Yeah.
she's crawling on a floor like a dog. Another one, she's taking her clothes off in the middle of the hallway. And the biting and kicking stuff is just awful.
And we want them to have their dignity as well. So, I think what you said is so important to come so we hear the story. These stories are repeated all around the world. One, we know we're not alone. But secondly, sometimes you can feel so alone because it's you in that room and no one is around you. So you feel as though you have to make the wheel all over again and no one else is seemingly coming up with any answers. So necessity is the mother of invention, as it says, and it certainly seems like, necessity came, and you became the inventor, the designer, the creator, and so many more people can benefit from it. I have
Uh,
so many takeaway points in what you said, Angela, but what I just want to put on my three highlights, and then you tell me your three highlights first because you're the guest, and I'll tell you my three highlights. What have you found most satisfying, and then plans for the future, or just what you found brought you greatest joy?
the one thing I found is that I can reach everybody. So if I can do it, everybody can.
Okay.
And remembering that little is big. So when they are in the later stage and not sleeping 95% of the time, they can still hold something. And that is engagement. And what I talked to you about the chemicals that it releases is that it's worth visiting them. They may not remember your name. They can't answer a question, but they're in there. And so when you have that connection, you'll see that. And that is satisfying. So it doesn't matter that they don't know your name. They know and they need that. And that engagement is so, 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 so key. I think it's as important as food and water and exercise because we saw it in the pandemic how people were dying from loneliness and from lack of engagement and being isolated. So Jerry Gadgets are built to bridge that gap too, just to make visitation easier if you have those, to make everything so you don't have to interrogate. It's funny how we visit someone and we interrogate them. Oh, do you remember who I am? What did you eat today? All of these are difficult questions for somebody with moderate to, as they get mild, okay, they can answer those. But when they get further along, it becomes really difficult. So then the person, the caregiver, gets upset and insulted. Well, they don't know who I am, but know that they do. It can come up later, but you never know what somebody's absorbing. And I think, remember, they can always, always hear you unless they're deaf.
That's it. I love that. So
So
one,
that,
that's almost my three actually. Ah,
let's
my
see.
my
Yeah.
main point, I think, is the touch. Touch. We can even self-soothe by rubbing our arms. Touching something that is feeling as close as a human touch, being able to interact with someone to touch them and touch the Geri-Gadgets, being able to feel useful again, like you're doing something, creating something like a flower pot, a flower arrangement. It just to see the light and life in someone who otherwise for science has said or persons have said they're not there, they just need to lay down and eat. No, it's more to life than that. So I just want to thank you for bringing the humanity into it, the joy, the colors, the creativity. It's a pleasure and an honor to have met you, and you're going to leave us your links, but tell us where we can find Geri-Gadgets. Just one quick place we can find you.
Well, just look on my website. It's gerigadgets.com with or without a dash, so you don't need it, but it's Geri gadgets, as in gadgets, Gadgets. And in there on the order, it's where to order. There's a few distributors, so pick and choose wherever you want. And then I know it's one extra step, but soon to happen, I will have a Shopify, so you'll be able to order direct from me, and that's coming really soon.
That's
So
awesome.
which will make life easier for everybody. But I love feedback. So if anybody has it, you can always reach me on the website. There's a
You.
form. Yeah. And the rest is good. And I'm happy to give advice to anybody from my experience, strength and hope. But they're in there and
They're
it
in
really
there.
made my purpose that they're there. And that's a beautiful thing. So that's why I did this.
So with that, we'll just say thank you. Mwah. Good morning, good evening, good night, and bye everyone. Thank you, Angela.